The idea is, they already know essentially what you're saying on social media, but if they can link your government issued ID to it, then they can open legal action against you in the event that misinformation is criminalized to a greater extent. And there are efforts being led actually by the US, the UK, and Israel to do that and label people that spread misinformation as cyber criminals in the same category as hackers responsible for ransomware. And this, of course, is part of the larger agenda to have a heavily regulated internet where your government issued ID is not just tied to your social media account, but to everything you do online, what you read, what you post, and all of that to profile you.
Technological inventions like the internet, GPS, and mobile phones are always a blessing, helping to facilitate our daily activities and make our lives generally easier and better. However, to some members of society, there are perfect tools for control, illegal surveillance, and domination. Unfortunately, these people are in charge of every aspect of society and dictate how we perceive reality. This very corrupt, greedy, and immoral group of people determines what's good, what's right, and what should pass as normal behavior. At the same time, they sit in the dark, planning diabolical events that would bewilder even the darkest souls. Unfortunately, they are winning because they control everything, including many aspects of our lives. In her latest expose about the global elite's plans to take absolute control of the internet, popular investigative journalist Whitney Webb discusses the mind-blowing link between Elon Musk's Neuralink, which is now in the human testing phase, and the elite's plans to basically impound the internet so they are privy to everything we read, post, watch, or even buy online. According to Musk's post on his social media platform X, formerly Twitter, the first Neuralink product is telepathy, a chip implanted into the brain to help people control their phones or computers, and through them, almost any device, just by thinking. Musk also announced that the first human has received an implant, and that while the implants will at first be reserved for people who have lost the use of their limbs, it will later spread to accommodate more people. It's as dystopian as it gets. A billionaire with very questionable ideals wants to get free access to people's thoughts by implanting chips in them. What's next? Activated doomsday bunkers? The Hunger Games and districts for the non-elites? What are their aims, and what's out of bounds for them? Where exactly do they draw the line? We will now bring you clips from Whitney's mind-blowing discussion with Syriana analysis. Please watch, share, and like this video, subscribe to the channel, and don't forget to turn on post notifications for more videos like this. Thanks, and enjoy.
So Neuralink is currently being sort of framed as, oh, it's for people that are quadriplegic or have traumatic brain injuries, things of that nature. But Musk elsewhere has been quite open that he sees a much larger commercial opportunity than people who are permanently disabled. Promotes the product as saying things like, oh, you'll be able to access your phone just with your mind and all of this. So from statements he's made and other documentation, it's quite clear that Neuralink is not going to just stop with, enabling disabled people to use electronic devices. The idea is to sort of eventually, I think, usher in the next era of, what smartphones are right now, right? So we had the computer, revolution, personal computer revolution. Everyone has a personal computer, to everyone also has like a mobile phone that is a computer, essentially a smartphone. And the next step for that they've had set up for a long time, but they've had problems with adoption of it, is wearables, wearing your smartphone and smart devices, essentially. And then after that, the goal is to have it move from being on your body to within your body. And that's where Neuralink comes in. And so, they're currently in human trials, but there's other brain-machine interfaces, which is what Neuralink is, that are much farther along in the clinical trial sense than Neuralink, and started a year or two ago, putting these brain chips in people. So this is something in terms of a market that is more advanced than Neuralink. Neuralink is just the best known one. And obviously there are risks there. By allowing someone like Elon Musk, who is not just developing Neuralink, of course, he is also a contractor for US military and intelligence agencies, access to your neurological data, your thoughts, essentially. Obviously a lot of risks there. And when you consider also that he's developing, or has developed this satellite internet functionality, Starlink, which works with Space Force, works with the Pentagon, and all of this.
Yeah.
It's assumed that Starlink and Neuralink will link
Yeah.
together, right? And there'll be some sort of interface there, which no, I don't want my brain connected to the same network that the Pentagon and an intelligence agency is using. You might as well give the billionaires your brain in a bag. And that's essentially how I sort of see the brain chip thing being going forward. And ultimately, it comes down to reality manipulation, which if you look at some of the big architects of this space, Henry Kissinger and Eric Schmidt, the former CEO of Google, wrote a book about AI and essentially how it's going to be used for managing how people perceive reality. And of course, if you can control how people perceive reality, you control their behavior. And so, between, AI manipulating us in terms of manipulating our preferences or the information we read through censorship, but also through producing the content that we read online through ChatGPT and other things. You also add the AI brain chip component to it later. The goal is to have, our reality be managed in unprecedented ways by whoever controls the AI, because it's not nominally it would be the AI controlling those things, but someone programs the AI and gives it its objective functions. And those, of course, are Silicon Valley firms. And some of them may seem like independent companies, but probably the most well-known one at this point, OpenAI, which produces ChatGPT, is essentially an extension of Microsoft at this point. And so we can assume that the biggest AI algorithms and AI companies are going to at one point or another be tied to the biggest of the big Silicon Valley companies, meaning, Google or Amazon or Microsoft or, ones of that nature. And essentially all of those companies have the same ties that Musk has to the military and to intelligence agencies, because these big tech companies contract for them. And at the same time, they dominate political donations to both parties.
Yes.
In ways that are very significant. So you could really argue that Silicon Valley is the de facto governing force in the United States today.
Henry Kissinger once said, "Who controls the food supply controls the people. Who controls the energy can control whole continents. Who controls the money can control the world." However, if this statement were made today, the last line would read, "Control the data, and you control everything and everyone. Governments, nations, militaries, organizations, and households." According to Whitney, this absolute control of the data has made Silicon Valley all-powerful, the de facto leaders of the world's strongest nations, with widespread reach in all corners of the world. But we need no reminder of their atrocities, especially knowing that most of these Silicon Valley CEOs were subpoenaed in connection to Jeffrey Epstein. Let's get back to the interview as Whitney speaks further about Elon Musk's proposed Everything app, Starlink, and how everything ties neatly with his desire to implant chips in all of our brains.
At a more broader level, and you see this with Musk too, in terms of his desire to turn Twitter into WeChat, is to essentially harvest as much data from people as possible, because the new adage, right, is data is the new oil. And so if you can control the vast majority of data, then you're, like the oil baron, the data baron of the new era. You're the Rockefeller of the data era, right? Right. So there's essentially monopolies being formed here, and Elon Musk wanting to create the Everything app. Obviously, the Everything app plus brain chips and whatever is going to produce so much data that it will keep him an oligarch for the rest of his life. Open source doesn't necessarily mean more secure. It just means you can read the code, but you have to have a knowledgeable person auditing the code that can understand the code to see if data is being siphoned off and sent back. And more often than not, it is. And geolocation is a big part of that. And of course, Starlink at this point should very clearly be seen as an extension of American intelligence. Just by virtue of things where they have set up Starlink functionality against the Iranian government's wishes in Iran, right? So that it can be used by the different groups there that receive funding from USAID and these other entities and, longstanding efforts to fund regime change in Iran, whether it's, Israeli or American intelligence related funds, it doesn't really matter. It's, similar tactics being enabled by Starlink, right? So who is prompting Starlink to go into Iran or prompting them to support the Ukrainian military, for example? It's definitely functioning as an extension of that. And again, with people, whether it's Elon Musk or Trump or any of these people, you have to look at their actions, not just their rhetoric. These figures in particular try and frame their rhetoric as populist, as right-leaning, as supporting traditional values. And in a lot of time, their rhetoric doesn't support that. So for example, Elon Musk has been a big promoter of essentially everything the World Economic Forum promotes, whether it's UBI or carbon markets and all of these things. And a lot of his wealth could not have, he wouldn't have been able to generate the wealth he has or had the success he has without a significant amount of subsidies from the government, which enabled a lot of his businesses under the guise that they would, combat climate change and stuff, electric vehicles and, solar panels at one point and all of that. His success is intimately tied with a different type of group than the one he's trying to appeal to now, as sort of being a free speech absolutist, when in reality he's doing sort of this good cop, bad cop thing with the CEO of Twitter, Linda Yaccarino, who frequently talks about freedom of speech, not freedom of reach. So, we're going to ban, shadow ban people again. And talking about before the upcoming US presidential election, that censorship is going to ramp up to clamp down on misinformation and all of that. And as far as WeChat, the WeChat model goes, well, sure, it's convenient that everything's all in one place, but it does create a lot of issues going forward. When you consider some of the ambitions for an app like this. So of course, it would enable on the one hand, some sort of financial control, financial surveillance. And there's an unprecedented effort right now to have people link their government issued IDs to their social media presence. Twitter under Musk has been going ahead with that, very, advancing on that front very quickly. And the firm that they use to process ID verification is linked to Israeli intelligence, which is significant.
At the moment, quite a number of moves are being made to regulate social media platforms and presumably make them safer, especially for children. An example is the UK's Online Safety Act. According to Whitney, this and similar legislation that seeks to mandate linking verified IDs to social media platforms are shams carefully designed to disarm the population until every aspect of our lives can be easily monitored and surveilled. Under the guise of stopping automated bots, Twitter's account verification system requires users to submit a government ID and a live selfie to confirm their identity. Though this system is currently limited to paid subscribers, Musk has been clear that that's his intention for every user on the platform. Whitney warns that this verification process is only the first step. The second step is the complete surveillance and witch hunting of every user who posts what they consider as misinformation. This witch hunting will include deplatforming, prosecution, and, one day, when our financial system is completely digital and centralized, freezing of assets. What are your thoughts on Whitney's interview? Do you agree there is much more to all these than we are being told, and we are being blatantly deceived by these billionaires? Please drop your comments and observations in the comment section below. Also, ensure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on post notifications for more videos like this. Thanks for watching.